So welcome back everyone. Now we're going to talk about how to get your ArcGIS Online layer set up for data collection. So you can see I'm on my organizational ArcGIS homepage right here. You're probably going to want to bookmark this account just to make it easy to access. And make sure when you're logging into your organizational account, not a private account. So first you're going to go under the content. This is generally where all your layers are going to live. And this is the screen you're going to be on the most. So here's all of my owned layers, and you can also find layers over here in groups, which are layers shared between you and other people in your organization. It's smart to have groups that refer to different departments in your agency or different parts of people on your project. But for this demonstration, we're just going to go back to our home content folder and pop open a new folder. So organization is key on ArcGIS Online or with any sort of GIS operation. So you're going to want to make sure you keep things organized as possible. So we hit create a new folder, just call it demo for now, and click OK. Just a quick note on naming conventions. If you hit create new folder, you can actually call this anything you want. So you can have spaces or not, but we like to keep certain naming conventions. So whenever naming a folder, we recommend using underscore. So for this scenario, let's say demo, and you would use the underscore with any other sort of space. So use something like that. Another option is something called camel case, where you start off lowercase and you go upper. For this particular situation, it doesn't matter, but when sharing various files through ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS Pro, or anywhere else, they're going to make you stick to certain naming conventions, so it's best just to get in the habit. So to create our data collection feature, we're going to head over to New Item and click Feature Layer. So there's a lot of pre-built templates in here that you can explore if anything particularly applies to you. But we're just going to go to General and scroll down and click on Points. Create that. And so this is going to be a point layer. It's very important that the layer you choose is a point layer. Lines and polygons will not work with the flex. So you're going to want to check both boxes right here. This one captures GPS receiver information, result events metadata that you'll get from the flex, as well as the Z values that allow you to store 3D data. Next step is to choose the extent of where your map's gonna encompass. So we're gonna scroll in here on our Northern Scottsdale Bad Elf office, and this will make sure that your map centers in the right place. So again, when naming this file, we're gonna want to stick to good naming conventions. So if it's anything more than one word, let's say we're calling it the month here, September, you're going to want to use an underscore or at least use camel case as I demonstrated earlier. You can also enter a summary, any tags to help organize it, and categories as well. All of these options help organize everything, which if you start getting a lot of data layers in your organization, makes things much easier to access and prevents you having to go on a scavenger hunt just to locate files. So we're going to click Done here. And we're going to have to call this something else. So we'll call this 99. And give it a second for the file to be created. If you have a pre-existing feature class that you want to add the metadata fields to, you can use this tool in ArcGIS Pro, add GPS metadata fields. So this applies to if you're not creating a brand new layer in ArcGIS Online, and adding the metadata fields using this tool is simple as dragging and dropping whichever feature class you want. You're going to click Run, and once the tool is finished running, you can go over to the attribute table, and you can see all of the metadata fields are added in. So this includes accuracy measures like dilution of precision, the correction age, and anything that you would be interested in to verify the accuracy of the data. Just a quick note, all of these steps we're covering right now are also covered in the story map that's included in your training guide. So feel free to go back here and follow the steps if you need any sort of help and you don't want to go back and watch the recording of the video. So back to our ArcGIS Online layer that we just created, we're going to want to edit the settings to ensure everything's working properly. So I recommend checking this button under delete protection. This stops anything from being accidentally deleted, and it's just a nice little layer of security. To delete the layer if you don't want it anymore, it's as simple as going back and checking this and you can delete it again. So it's no big deal. So scroll down, you want to make sure enable editing is checked. If you created this layer from the process I just showed you, it will automatically be checked, so you wouldn't have to worry about this. All of these layers are, all these checkboxes and console buttons should be fine, but I recommend also checking this last checkbox down here under export data. This lets you to export all the data collection to different formats to share with people however you would like. This includes CSV, JSON, and other formats. Another setting that's not available on this screen is sharing settings. So we're actually going to go all the way back to overview and scroll down here a little bit. So you can see right here, share. Right now we're just sharing at the owner level, which means only I can see it. We want other people in the organization to be able to see this data layer. So we're going to go to edit and just hit organization. If you have any specific groups you want to share this layer with, you can also go to edit group sharing and you can select a particular group that you'd like to be able to edit it as well. So, but for right now, let's go to edit, organization, save, and now everyone else in the organization can see this layer. So you might have some particular attributes that you want to add to this data collection layer. So to do that, you go to data, fields, and you have this button up here suggesting that you add fields. All these existing fields are the GPS metadata fields that we had discussed before. And when you check this box, these are all filled in for you, and the Flex collects all this information automatically. So you're going to hit add in the top left, and we'll just do something called name for now. So this is the field name, and this is where our naming conventions really come into play. Because for the field name, you cannot have spaces. That's an invalid field name. So I recommend you use underscore or the camel case like such. So you can also not use any special characters, so avoid those as well. But for this, we'll just use the word name. You can select a default value if you desire and add the new field. Wait for it to add, and if you scroll to the bottom here, you can see it pops up. But how about if you only want a certain amount of values being available for each field? So if you click on name and go up here to create list, this allows you to create a domain, just a list of valid values that the people collecting the data can use. So instead of typing a value in, it'll create a drop-down list of which they can select one, which reduces the amount of the errors in the field. So right here for name, let's say we're doing trees, we can do maple. And for code, we just do a number. So right here, we'll do the number 0. It wouldn't be much use if we only had one, so then we can do another kind of tree and just hit 1 for the code. You're going to want to hit have individual values for both the label and the code. Click save, and now we have a list of values, which is the domain. Finally, the last thing we want to configure is the map itself. So we can either open this up in Map Viewer Classic or the brand new Map Viewer, whichever one you feel more comfortable with. I'll do the new Map Viewer, wait for that to pop up. And you can see our extent we selected earlier, it automatically zooms in on, so we don't have to do a bunch of scrolling with the mouse wheel. This is where you can go through and configure how data layers will show up in your map. So if you go to Styles, you can see its location single symbol. Click on Style Options and hit Edit, and we can do different shapes. So let's say I want this X here. I click that, I can adjust the size, as well as the rotation and outline. So this makes your map look as visually clear and simple as possible. So if you go down the list over here, you can see all the different options. You can add a filter for the features that you want appearing on the map if you have existing contextual features that you want to use as a reference for the field. You can do clustering so the map doesn't look like a jumbled mess when zoomed out. Configure your pop-ups, which is particularly important when filling out the form. So you can click here for fields list and get rid of whichever fields you don't think is necessary for when viewing the map itself. You can also configure the fields themselves to show a certain display name if you don't think it's correct, as well as showing labels. So when the individual point features show up on the map, you can actually see them labeled so you know what they are. One last thing is that we have a base map right here, but if you don't like this particular one, we can go over here and we can do imagery instead, as well as all the other listed ones. Finally, when we're done making changes, we want to make sure we save everything. Click Save, call it a name, add any tags, a summary, and save the map. So after all of these different settings are configured, we're ready to collect in ArcGIS field maps. Okay, so now that we're in field maps, we're going to first want to adjust our collection settings by hitting the little person icon in the top left. So the first setting we're going to want to look at is our provider. This is where you get your GPS location from. So by default, integrated will be selected, and this is the crappy GPS that's by default enabled on your iPad, iPhone, or whatever mobile device you're using. So once you connect your Flex to your device here, you're going to want to hit that and make sure it's enabled. If it's not already on the list, you just go to add, and as long as it's connected via Bluetooth, it'll be here on the list, and you can just add it that way. You're going to want to make sure when you add it, though, that your antenna height is corrected to the proper height. So you can see here it's 2.23, and that's a 2-meter survey pole plus 23 centimeters, which is the distance from the Flex's base to the center of the antenna. So once you ensure you have that set correctly, you're going to want to go back and go over to Profile. So you can see I have a couple of pre-made profiles here, but we're going to add a new one to demonstrate how it's done. So if you're using RTK, you're going to want to go here to the search bar and enter 6318, which refers to our datum of NAD 1983-2011, which is the kind of datum correction services use. Hit that, and now you want to select your map coordinate system. For this, you can just hit 3857, and your web Mercator is going to pop up. That's the default used by Esri Maps. Zoom in on your map extent. This gives the program an idea of which datums are able to be used. Hit next, and just hit whichever one comes at the top. This is a transformation from what you're collecting in to the data type you have. So right here, we're gonna hit that, hit done, give it a name that is meaningful to you, and we're ready to go. If you're just collecting data using SBAS or not using corrections, you can just hit default, and that uses WGS84, which conveniently enough is what the Esri ArcGIS Online maps are using for their data. The final setting we're going to want to adjust is collection settings. So hit collection settings, and you can add your minimum accuracy. So for this, we have it at 3 feet, but let's say we want accuracy of 1/2 foot. Just enter 6 inches, hit done, and we can go back. A setting that we really recommend turning on is GPS averaging. So if you turn this on, this takes multiple GPS points, 1 every second by default, because it's a refresh rate of 1 hertz. And this gives you maximum accuracy because it's taking multiple points and averaging them together to get as close as possible to your actual location. The downside of this is that it takes more time, but generally you have to add your attributes anyway. So you're going to be there for our recommended time of about 15 seconds, which gives you good accuracy. So after that, you can exit out of your settings window and let's hop into our map, which you can see right here. Demo 9 is the map we made earlier. So let's open that up and you can see it's using our base map that we set of imagery. So those are all the settings we want to adjust, and as you can see here, Demo 9, the map we just created, appears on field maps automatically. So we're just going to hit this to open up the map, and you can see it automatically zooms in on our extent, and we can hit plus, add point, and then the point shows up on your map. You can see as well that name pops up as right here, and since we created a domain for it, a drop down list pops up, and let's say we're collecting a tree, we can choose maple. Oak is perfectly valid as well, and just hit submit. So it submits, and this actually updates in real time, so anyone viewing your work back at the office can help give you tips or direction of where to go based on your collection, and if any adjustments need to be made or if the data isn't up to par. One more feature is that you can add offline areas in case you're in an area without internet connection. And that's simple, just go into add offline area, downloading the area, waiting for it to download, and then you're good to go even if you don't have any internet. So that completes our section on field maps, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.